We start with the ongoing crisis concerning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia has been stripped of two major sporting events today. We'll bring you up to speed with the Champions League final shortly. But first, in the last hour, September's Russian Grand Prix has been cancelled. F1 bosses say they are saddened and shocked by the invasion. Craig Slater has sent us this report from pre-season testing in Barcelona.
Yes, thank you. The breaking news is indeed that the Russian Grand Prix will not take place this season. It was due to be held in September, but obviously the current crisis in the Ukraine has mitigated against that. Ted Kravitz is with me. I'll just read out the fairly brief statement that F1 has released. It's this: the FIA Formula One World Championship visits countries all over the world with a positive vision to unite people, bringing nations together. We are watching the developments in Ukraine with sadness and shock and hope for a swift and peaceful resolution to the present situation. On Thursday evening, Formula One, the FIA and the teams discussed the position of our sport, and the conclusion is, including the view of all relevant stakeholders, that it is impossible to hold the Russian Grand Prix in the current circumstances. I think we already suggested that that was an inevitability. And at least they have acted fairly quickly in this, would you say, Formula One?
Yes, I suppose so, although releasing it at lunchtime on Friday is not the same time as they decided it, which was seemingly Thursday evening. So I don't suppose what was wrong with announcing it on Thursday evening. Maybe they just have to build up to these things. But anyway, that's Formula One and the FIA to consider whether they wanted to act immediately they've made the decision or not. But I was interested where it says, including all the relevant stakeholders. So does that include the Russian promoters? Does that include the Russian Automobile Federation, which is the sanctioning body? I'd like to know the answers to that. But hey, that's the only logical conclusion that they could come to. I don't think you would have seen any of the teams or sponsors, and let's face it, the fans as well, wanting to go and compete in Russia. You could say, and I've heard from some drivers say they feel sorry for the Russian fans who like to come into the race in Sochi to enjoy the Grand Prix. But I think considering the suffering of many other people around that area at the moment, possibly they're the ones that we should feel least concerned about in the current situation.
I mean, governments might be soon taking action in these matters as well, couldn't they? I've just been speaking to Gunther Steiner, the Haas team principal, who has a Russian driver, Nikita Mazepin. Might it well be the case that governments apply pressure, or even governing bodies, to say that Russian athletes might not be involved at elite level competition?
Possibly, although it's quite a low, or is it high enough bar already for what has to happen to Russian athletes to prevent them from competing in international competition? We've seen that in the events of Beijing and the Winter Olympics recently, haven't we? But we'll see. I mean, whether it means that already Nikita Mazepin can't compete under the Russian flag, under all FIA official documents. He's a Russian international athlete, or RAF, or whatever the three-letter one is. It's of course the Russian Olympic athlete, isn't it, in the Olympics? But in any case, we'll have to see on that. What I think is for sure, Craig, is that we may just have been to the Sochi Autodrome for the last time. We may never go back to the Sochi Autodrome, because the 2023 Russian Grand Prix was going to be at the new Igora Drive circuit just outside St Petersburg. But any FIA sanctioned and Formula One event in Russia at any time now into the future needs to be called into question.
Yeah. Well, let's hope and pray that the world situation improves in that time, and of course in the shorter term as well. It seems almost callous to talk about it, but as a business, Formula One will have to try and recoup the money it's lost in Russia. That they might well look to put on another race. Turkey has waited in the wings and stepped in the last couple of years. That might be somewhere that could fill in for Sochi this year.
Yes, I mean, it seems trite, doesn't it, to talk about where they're going to get the 50 million quid back from. I think there are bigger issues. They could, they could organise a Grand Prix in Turkey. That would satisfy some of the contractual obligations they have to put a certain number of races on. It's 23 at the moment. I think they'd be loath to drop down to 22. Turkey would be a decent replacement given where it is geographically in the world, and I think we're going to the Far East, Singapore and the rest after the date of the Russian Grand Prix. I'd imagine there'd be a replacement somewhere. Maybe it's not somewhere that's going to give 50 million quid or somewhere, but hey, I'm sure Formula One are big boys. They can find that money from somewhere, or they can take a hit on it saying it was the better thing to do.
Okay, Ted, that's fine. Well, that is the news today. Formula One expressing sadness and shock about the situation in the Ukraine and confirming there will be no Russian Grand Prix this year.
Well, as Craig alluded to there, we heard from Günther Steiner before the announcement, who said that the decision was unanimous.
We go along, we are united, all the teams are united, FOM is united, FA is united, and the decision will be communicated pretty soon.
Yeah. So you're saying there is unanimity among the discussions that were had between the team bosses have come to a unanimous conclusion?
Correct.
So that is how the world of Formula One is responding to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There have been significant developments in the football world this morning too. As expected, Russia has been stripped of its right to host this year's Champions League final, which was due to take place on May the 28th in St Petersburg. As you can see, Kaveh Solhekol, our chief reporter, is with me here on set. Kaveh, just tell us and run us through what has happened today and what the reaction has been.
Well, UEFA have moved very, very quickly. They said yesterday that there was going to be an emergency executive committee meeting this morning. That meeting happened at 9 o'clock UK time. I think it only lasted about an hour, and they very quickly confirmed the decision we told you yesterday they were going to make, that the Champions League final was going to be taken away from St Petersburg. It is the third year in a row the final is being moved. The second year in a row that it's being moved away from the stadium you can see there, the Gazprom Arena in St Petersburg. I think one of the dissenting voices at the meeting today, the executive committee, 27 members, one of them is from Russia, the president of the Russian Football Union, who's also the chief executive of Gazprom, and he came out and said that he was totally against the decision and sport and politics should not mix. We also had a statement from the Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, saying that it's a shame that such a decision has been made, and he claims that St Petersburg would have been the perfect venue for the Champions League final. The UK government welcoming the decisive action, as they call it, by UEFA.
We saw a protest last night around the European club matches. I remember particularly Barcelona and Napoli players together uniting behind a banner that simply said, "Stop war." Look, there it is. What about the FA's stance on this and the notion of making protests?
The message we're getting from the Football Association is that players, fans and football clubs will be free to protest against the Russian invasion of Ukraine this weekend without fear of being punished by the FA. The FA normally has rules about what you can do, the kind of statements that you can make, the messages that you can put on T-shirts. Normally, religious, political statements are banned. But I think in this case, the strength of feeling is so strong that as long as the messages are not offensive, then the FA will not be taking any action against anybody. We've also seen this on social media. Lots of football clubs around the world are turning their badges to blue and yellow in solidarity with Ukraine. It'll be interesting to see if any clubs in the United Kingdom do that. We've also seen, for instance, famous buildings around the world being lit up in the colours of Ukraine, blue and yellow. Again, that is something that football clubs may wish to do. Let's not also forget that there are 3 Ukrainian players in the Premier League. So very interesting to see over the next few days what kind of frame of mind they're in, whether they're ready to play. We'll be hearing from some of their managers today, for instance, Frank Lampard at Everton and also David Moyes at West Ham, Pep Guardiola at Manchester City.
And talking of Manchester, Manchester United, there was some breaking news from there a little bit earlier on today regarding one of their partners, if you like. Tell us what that was.
Well, Manchester United's official carrier, their airline partner since 2013, has been Aeroflot. The Russian state carrier. Now, this morning, Manchester United have released a short statement that says, in light of events in Ukraine, we have withdrawn Aeroflot sponsorship rights. We share the concerns of our fans around the world and extend our sympathies to those affected. Now, Manchester United basically had no option but to do this, to cut all ties with Aeroflot, because yesterday, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, spoke in the House of Commons and he said that Aeroflot would be banned immediately from flying into and out of UK airspace. So how could Manchester United have a commercial partnership with an airline that was banned from flying anywhere over the United Kingdom? So no surprise that Manchester United have come out this morning and said that their relationship with Aeroflot is ending.
Can I just circle back to one of the previous topics? We talked about, sporting events in Russia, so the Champions League final, the Russian Grand Prix. Obviously, Russia are involved in World Cup playoffs, aren't they, for Qatar 2022? So what's the latest on that situation? I mean, I'm sure that there'll be lots of people calling not just for a game to be postponed or not take place in Russia, but simply them not to be able to take part in the playoffs.
I mean, their first playoff game is against Poland, and Poland are one of the 3 football associations that have written to FIFA saying, we will not be going to Moscow. We refuse to go to Moscow to play this game. You have to find a neutral venue. Now, we were speaking yesterday to FIFA. There was also a news conference with Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president. And basically, he said, look, of course, I'm aware of this letter, but we have to go through due process at FIFA. This is being looked at as a matter of urgency, and we will update you on our decision as soon as that decision is made. But looking at the way the wind is blowing, looking at the way the situation is developing in Ukraine, you would think that it is almost impossible for any kind of games to be played in Russia at the moment.
Yeah, we've seen that urgency with UEFA. We'll see if we see it with FIFA on this matter. For the moment, Kaveh, thank you very much indeed. Now, elsewhere, the United States have announced sanctions against USM Limited, the holding company of Alisher Usmanov and the Everton owner Farhad Mashiri. The company has a naming rights partnership with Everton's training ground. The US Treasury announced a list of sanctions last night. We also understand that Everton will ditch their pre-match sirens for the game against Manchester City tomorrow as a show of respect, given both squads have Ukrainian players in their playing staff.